There are moments in life when you sit alone in silence and feel the weight of the world crushing your chest. You look in the mirror and barely recognize the reflection, bruised by failure, crippled by doubt. It's in those dark, brutal hours where you start questioning everything, your worth, your choices, your strength. But listen closely, this is exactly why we fall, not because we are weak, but because the universe is preparing warriors, not victims. Falling isn't failure. It's the fire that melts your excuses and forges discipline. It's the pain that shatters your illusions and builds clarity. Every fall is a lesson dressed in agony, and most people quit right there. But you, if you're hearing this, you are not most people. Falling is your initiation. It's the price for greatness. Every setback is fuel. Every heartbreak is armor. Every loss is a whisper, daring you to rise one more time. So don't cry about falling. Get mad. Get hungry. Get up. Stand taller. Be harder to break. Because every time you rise, you tell the world that nothing will keep you down. Not fate, not failure, not fear. And that, my friend, is how legends are made. Falling is the test that separates the average from the elite. It's not the victory, not the spotlight, not the applause that defines a man. It's what he does after he's been knocked flat, humiliated, beaten, and forgotten. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants to win. Everyone talks about ambition, goals, legacy. But when the pain hits, when the plans fall apart, when nothing makes sense anymore, that's when the truth comes out. That's when the pretenders fall off. That's when the average quit. That's when the excuses start rolling in. It's not the right time. I tried my best. It's just not meant to be. That's average talk. That's weakness dressed in logic. That's the language of people who'd rather stay broken than feel the burn of rising. But the elite, they're different. They look at the fall and see opportunity. They bleed and keep walking. They get betrayed, broken, ridiculed, and still they move. They don't cry about what they lost. They focus on what they're going to become because deep down, they understand the fall isn't a punishment. It's a filter. It's the universe clearing out the noise, stripping you of your ego, your comfort, your distractions, and leaving you face to face with your raw, unfiltered self. That version of you, the one who has no safety net, no applause, no external validation, is where the elite are born. It's the place where champions are built, brick by painful brick. Average people wait for motivation. They wait for the stars to align, for their emotions to catch up with their dreams. The elite, they move whether they feel like it or not. They don't beg for comfort. They run toward discomfort like it's a ritual because they know growth lives there. And growth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about how tired you are, how unfair the world is, or how many times you've already failed. It only rewards one thing: persistence. The kind of persistence that wakes up when the world says stay down. The kind of grit that keeps showing up when it would be so much easier to quit. Falling doesn't make you weak. Staying down does. Blaming others does. Looking for sympathy does. You think the elite didn't fall? You think they didn't get laughed at, rejected, abandoned? They just never let it be the end. The difference isn't in the fall, it's in the response. Some let failure define them. The elite let it refine them. It sharpens them. It trains their mind to be tougher than their pain. It teaches them that failure isn't fatal. It's feedback. It's data. It's a mirror showing you what you need to fix, not a wall keeping you from your goal. Every fall is a question: how bad do you want it? Do you want it enough to come back stronger, smarter, more dangerous? Or do you want it just enough to give up when it hurts? Most people want to look successful. The elite want to be successful. They don't chase attention. They chase mastery. They understand that the real work is done in silence, when no one's watching, when there's no clapping, no praise. Just pain, sweat, and lonely nights where every voice inside says quit, and they still don't. That's the test. That's what the fall is for. It's not a curse. It's a challenge. It's life asking, are you ready to earn what you're asking for? And make no mistake, greatness must be earned. You don't get it by reading quotes or watching motivational videos. You get it by showing up after you've lost everything, by grinding through days when your body screams for rest and your mind drowns in doubt. The fall is where your character is exposed, not built, exposed, because everything you need is already inside you. The fall just rips away all the fake layers and shows you what you're made of. You'll see people around you quit, people who had more talent, more resources, more support, but they lack the one thing that matters: hunger. They weren't willing to endure. Or they weren't willing to bleed for their vision, and that's why they'll stay average, because they feared the fall instead of embracing it. But you, if you understand this, if you stop running from the fall and start learning from it, you'll become unstoppable. Every scar will become a story. Every failure will fuel your fire. And one day you'll look back and realize that falling was never the problem. Falling was the plan. The climb begins where the fall ends, and only those who are willing to fall again and again without losing the fire inside will ever reach the summit. So don't fear the fall. Respect it, accept it, use it. Because once you've survived the bottom, once you've clawed your way back from the edge, you don't walk the same. You don't speak the same. You don't fear the same. You move like someone who's been through hell and built a kingdom there. That's what separates the average from the elite. The elite don't avoid the fall. They rise because of it. Pain is a currency. Spend it to buy strength. Most people run from pain as if it's the enemy, something to be avoided at all costs. They plaster on fake smiles, distract themselves with meaningless pleasures, and pretend the discomfort doesn't exist. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is the most valuable currency you have, the raw material from which strength, resilience, and greatness are forged. It's the price tag on every lesson, every breakthrough, every hard-won victory. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is how they spend their pain. Do they squander it on excuses, self-pity, and regret? Or do they invest it in their growth, their mindset, their future? Pain is inevitable. Life will test you in ways that are brutal and relentless. You will lose people you love. You will face betrayal, failure, rejection, and heartbreak. Your body will ache. Your mind will doubt. The world will seem unfair and cruel. But that's exactly why pain is such a powerful currency. It's a universal experience, and it's what separates those who simply exist from those who truly live. Because the moment you realize pain is not punishment but investment, everything changes. Every struggle becomes an opportunity. Every wound becomes a chance to get stronger. Every hardship becomes a stepping stone on the path to mastery. You can choose to let pain destroy you. It can consume you, leaving you broken, bitter, and beaten. Or you can use it. You can spend it deliberately, like a wise investor, on building the strongest version of yourself. Pain pushes you beyond your limits. It forces you to adapt, to innovate, to dig deeper than you ever thought possible. The muscles you build from lifting weights are a physical metaphor. They tear under stress, but in that tearing, they grow back bigger and stronger. Pain is doing the same thing to your mind, your character, and your soul. Each setback, each struggle is a workout session for your inner strength. Those who never endure pain never develop true strength. They float through life, protected by comfort and avoidance, but they lack the depth and grit that come from struggle. True strength is earned in the furnace of suffering, not the lap of luxury. It's the product of someone who has stared down their darkest moments and refused to back down. Someone who has felt the crushing weight of failure and used it as a lever to lift themselves higher. Pain, when spent wisely, becomes the fuel that powers relentless drive, unwavering discipline, and unbreakable will. When you embrace pain, you become untouchable. You start to see challenges as investments rather than obstacles. That failure you're terrified of, it's a payment toward the education you need. That heartbreak that feels like it will tear you apart, it's the price of learning how to love harder and live fuller. That rejection you're drowning in, it's the currency that's buying your future self the wisdom and resilience to say, not this time, next time. Pain is not an end. It's a means. It's a transaction. And the richer you become in pain, the wealthier you become in strength. But here's the catch. You have to spend your pain consciously. You can't just suffer and expect to grow automatically. Pain without purpose becomes bitterness. Struggle without strategy becomes despair. You have to take control of how you use that currency. You have to turn pain into action. When life knocks you down, don't lie there counting your wounds. Get up and invest your pain in training harder, learning more, becoming better. When your mind is telling you to quit, remind yourself that every second of discomfort is a deposit into your strength account. When your heart feels broken, channel that energy into creating, building, and proving the world wrong. The strongest people you know aren't those who avoided pain. They're the ones who learned to make pain their ally. They have a different mindset about suffering. They don't see it as a setback. They see it as a transaction. They've made countless payments in pain, and each one has built a fortress of mental toughness around them. That's why when life hits them again, they don't break. They bend, absorb the impact, and come back swinging harder than before. The truth is, pain is the ultimate equalizer. Everyone experiences it, but not everyone uses it. The pain you feel today can either be your chain or your wings. It all depends on what you do with it. Spend your pain on excuses, and it will imprison you in a cage of what-ifs and regrets. Spend your pain on growth, and it will launch you into a life where you are stronger, smarter, and more capable than you ever imagined. The choice is yours. Remember, pain is temporary, but the strength you buy with it lasts forever. Every scar, every tear, every night spent wrestling with your demons is an investment in your power. When you learn to welcome pain instead of fearing it, you'll find that you are capable of more than you ever dreamed. Pain will stop being a punishment and start being your greatest teacher. It will stop being a wall and start being a ladder. So next time you feel pain creeping in, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, don't run. Don't hide. Don't numb it away with distractions or false comforts. Stand tall, face it head on, and spend it wisely. Use it to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your resolve, and to build a version of yourself so powerful that nothing in the world can break you. Because pain is not your enemy. It's the currency of strength. And how you spend it will define the legacy you leave behind. The fall is temporary. The lesson is permanent. This truth is the foundation of every story of success, every journey from failure to triumph, and every moment of growth that shapes who we become. When you fall, it feels like the end. The ground rushes up to meet you, your heart pounds with fear and shame, and everything inside screams that you've lost. You might feel broken, helpless, and defeated. But the fall itself is fleeting. It is a moment in time, a brief interruption in your story. What lasts, what truly changes your life, is the lesson you take from that fall. Falling is inevitable. It's part of the human experience. Nobody escapes it. The greats, the legends, the ones who achieve what others only dream about, they all fall. They stumble, they fail, they get knocked down harder than most people can imagine. But what sets them apart isn't that they never fell, it's that they never stayed down. They understood that falling wasn't a full stop. It was a comma, a pause to learn, a reset button that gave them a chance to come back smarter, stronger, and more determined. The fall is a moment, yes, but it is the lesson, the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom that is permanent. That is what shapes your future. When you fall, it's natural to feel overwhelmed by the immediate pain and disappointment. The sting of failure, rejection, or loss hits hard. You might want to hide to pretend it didn't happen or to blame everything and everyone else, but those are distractions. The real power lies in reflection. The fall forces you to look closely at what went wrong, not to beat yourself up, but to learn. What caused the fall? What could you have done differently? What can you do better next time? The lesson hides inside the pain. It's the gift disguised as a setback. If you search for it, if you embrace it, you unlock your true potential. The permanence of the lesson means your fall becomes a foundation. Every mistake you make, every failure you endure, every time you hit rock bottom, you gain knowledge that nobody can take away from you. You carry it with you like a secret weapon. That lesson shapes your decisions, your mindset, and your actions moving forward. It makes you wiser, more cautious, more prepared. The lesson turns your weakness into strength and your failure into a stepping stone. It's like a tattoo etched on your soul, visible only to you, but influencing every step you take. People who refuse to learn from their falls are doomed to repeat them. They keep making the same mistakes, falling into the same traps, and suffering the same disappointments. They treat falling like an end rather than a beginning. But those who accept that the fall is temporary and the lesson is permanent use every failure as a masterclass in growth. They become students of life, constantly evolving, constantly improving. They know that each fall adds a layer of resilience and clarity. It sharpens their focus and fuels their hunger. The lesson becomes their guide, their compass in the chaos of life. The lesson also teaches humility. When you fall, you confront your limitations, your flaws, your humanity. It strips away arrogance and forces you to face reality. This humility is not weakness. It's a powerful acknowledgement that you are not perfect, that you don't have all the answers, and that growth is a lifelong process. Humility opens your mind to learning, to feedback, and to change. It allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles. It turns pain into progress. The lesson is permanent because it transforms how you see yourself in the world. The fall is temporary, but the lesson shapes your identity. It becomes part of your story, your character, your legacy. When you look back years later, the memory of the fall might still hurt, but the lesson will shine brighter. You'll realize that the worst moments were actually the best teachers. You'll see how those painful experiences gave you the strength to overcome future challenges, to persevere when things got tough, and to inspire others with your resilience. The lesson is the lasting impact of the fall. It's what makes you who you are. The permanence of the lesson also means you carry responsibility. Once you've fallen and learned, you can't pretend it never happened. You can't ignore the wisdom gained. To grow, you have to apply that lesson every day. You have to be intentional about changing your habits, your mindset, and your actions based on what you've learned. Otherwise, the fall becomes just a scar without meaning. Growth requires action. The lesson demands that you use it to make better choices, to push harder, and to refuse to settle for less. The fall may be a moment, but the lesson requires a lifetime of commitment. This truth, falling is temporary, but the lesson is permanent, is the foundation of resilience. Resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward, moving ahead with more wisdom and strength than before. Resilient people don't see falls as defeats, they see them as invitations to improve. They understand that every stumble contains a truth that will prepare them for the battles ahead. They use the lesson to build mental toughness, emotional strength, and unshakable confidence. Resilience is born when you accept that the fall will come, but it won't define you. The lesson will. The lesson also creates gratitude. Odd as it sounds, falling can make you grateful. Grateful because pain revealed your limits and pushed you beyond them. Grateful because failure showed you what doesn't work and pointed you toward what will. Grateful because the lesson brought clarity to your vision and purpose. When you understand that the fall is temporary and the lesson is permanent, you start to appreciate the struggles as necessary parts of your journey. You stop wishing for an easy life and start embracing the challenge of becoming your best self. In the end, the fall is just a moment in your life's timeline. It's a necessary disruption, a powerful teacher, a brutal wake-up call. But the lesson, the insight, the growth, the transformation lasts forever. It changes the way you think, the way you act, and the way you live. It builds character, sharpens your mind, and steels your soul. The fall tests you, but the lesson builds you. And when you carry that lesson with you, you become unstoppable. Because no matter how many times you fall, you know you will rise, and rise smarter, stronger, and more determined than ever before. That is the power of understanding that the fall is temporary, but the lesson is permanent. Resilience isn't natural. It's built in fire. It's not something we're born with like eye color or height. Resilience is forged, hammered out in the hottest, most brutal fires of life's toughest moments. It's crafted through struggle, pain, failure, and relentless pressure. Think about what happens when metal is shaped. It's not by gentle handling or easy conditions. It requires intense heat, pounding, bending, and sometimes breaking before it becomes strong enough to hold its form against anything. Resilience works the same way. It's born in hardship and grows stronger every time you face adversity and refuse to give in. Nobody wakes up one day with resilience already inside them. It's not a default setting. When life smacks you down, your first reaction is often shock, fear, maybe even despair. That's natural. But it's what you do next, how you respond to that fire, that determines whether resilience takes root or you remain fragile. Resilience is a skill, a mindset, a choice you make every time life pushes you to your limit. It's the decision to stand back up when the world wants you to stay down, to keep moving when every part of you begs to quit. The fire tests you, breaks you, and through that breaking it builds something stronger. The fire of life comes in many forms: loss, rejection, failure, pain, loneliness, disappointment. It's the moments when everything seems to fall apart and nothing makes sense. When your plans crumble, your confidence shatters, and the weight of the world presses down on your chest so hard it feels like you can't breathe. That fire doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are or what you've done. It comes for everyone, and it's relentless. But those who develop resilience don't just survive the fire, they use it to transform themselves. They refuse to be consumed by it. Instead, they become tempered by it. What makes resilience so powerful is that it's not about avoiding pain or struggle. It's about embracing it. It's about looking at the fire and saying, bring it on. It's about learning to move through discomfort without losing your mind or your heart. It's about understanding that true strength isn't about being untouched by hardship, but about being molded by it. Every trial you face, every harsh word, every setback is another stroke of the hammer shaping you into someone who can withstand the next blow. This is how resilience grows, step by painful step. Resilience also means developing mental toughness. It's training your mind to focus on what you can control rather than what you can't. When life throws chaos and uncertainty at you, resilient people don't crumble into panic or despair. They hold steady. They focus on their response, their effort, their attitude. They develop the habit of seeing obstacles as challenges to overcome rather than insurmountable barriers. This mindset doesn't happen overnight. It's built over time by surviving fire after fire, learning from each one, and coming back stronger. That's why resilient people often seem unbreakable. They've been tested and tempered more than most. The fire also teaches patience and persistence. Resilience isn't about instant success or quick fixes. It's a slow, grueling process of growth. When you're in the middle of the fire, it might feel like you're stuck, like progress is impossible. But resilience means grinding through that, pushing forward even when you see no immediate results. It means enduring the heat and the smoke, trusting that the process will make you stronger. It's the long game, the willingness to keep showing up, to keep fighting, even when the outcome is uncertain. That's the essence of resilience. Another important aspect of resilience built in fire is self-awareness. When you're in the heat of battle, you learn who you really are. You discover your limits, your fears, your hidden strengths. The fire strips away the superficial and forces you to confront yourself honestly. This self-awareness is crucial because it allows you to understand what you need to improve, what you need to protect, and where your true power lies. It's a brutal but necessary part of becoming resilient. Without knowing yourself deeply, resilience can't grow because you won't know what you're fighting for or against. Resilience built in fire also creates humility. When the flames are licking at your heels, there's no room for arrogance or delusion. You realize how vulnerable you are, how much you don't know, and how much you need to grow. This humility is not weakness. It's a source of strength because it keeps you open to learning, to adapting, to changing course when necessary. It prevents you from becoming rigid or complacent. The fire humbles you, but it also fuels a hunger to rise again and again. One of the most powerful things about resilience is that it's contagious. When people see someone who has been through hell and come out stronger, it inspires them. It lights a fire in others to develop their own resilience. The stories of people who refused to quit, who battled through pain and loss and came back victorious, are proof that resilience can be built by anyone willing to face their own fire. Resilience becomes a legacy, a ripple effect that spreads strength and courage to those around you. At the core, resilience built in fire is about transformation. It's about turning suffering into power, struggle into wisdom, and pain into purpose. The fire doesn't just test you, it changes you. It refines your character, sharpens your focus, and deepens your courage. It takes raw, unpolished potential and turns it into unbreakable strength. Resilience isn't just surviving the fire, it's thriving because of it. It's becoming someone who can not only endure but dominate whatever life throws their way. So when life burns you, when you feel the heat and pressure crushing you, remember this: resilience isn't natural, but it's something you can build. You don't need to be born strong, you can become strong. The fire will come, that's guaranteed. But how you respond to it is your choice. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it forge you. Every scar, every wound, every hardship is a chance to grow tougher, wiser, and more resilient. You build resilience one fire at a time, one challenge at a time, one decision to stand back up at a time. And the truth is, the stronger your resilience, the more you will attract life's challenges. Because life tests those who are ready to be tested. It pushes harder against those who refuse to break. But that's the point. Not to break, but to be built in fire. The stronger your resilience, the more unstoppable you become. So welcome the fire. Lean into it. Use it to build a version of yourself that no fall, no failure, no hardship can ever shatter. Because resilience isn't natural. It's built in fire. And once it's built, it lasts forever. Your rise begins the moment you stop making excuses. It's that simple. Yet so few people truly grasp this truth. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep you trapped in the same place, spinning your wheels without moving forward. They whisper lies in your ear, telling you that you're not ready, not capable, or that circumstances beyond your control are the reason you haven't succeeded yet. But the moment you decide to stop handing over your power to excuses, your rise begins. That moment marks the shift from being a victim of your circumstances to becoming the master of your destiny. Excuses are easy. They are comfortable. They let you avoid responsibility, avoid risk, and avoid discomfort. They give you permission to stay stuck, to settle for less than you're capable of. Saying, I don't have enough time, I'm not talented enough, it's too hard, or I'll start tomorrow sounds reasonable and even believable. But in reality, these excuses are just fears dressed up in words. They're the voice of doubt trying to protect you from failure, but in doing so, they protect you from success as well. The moment you stop listening to those excuses, you free yourself to take real action. When you stop making excuses, you embrace accountability. You own your decisions, your actions, and your results. This is where true growth begins. No one else is responsible for your success or failure but you. The circumstances you face, whether they're tough or easy, are just the playing field. What matters is how you show up on that field. Are you running toward your goals or hiding from them? Excuses are the refuge of the weak, but accountability is the hallmark of the strong. It's the recognition that your life is your responsibility and that you have the power to change it. The rise that begins when you stop making excuses is not always easy. It requires courage because excuses are comfortable lies. It's easier to blame the situation than to confront your own shortcomings. It's easier to say I can't than to push past the discomfort of I must. But the discomfort of accountability is temporary, while the freedom and progress it brings last forever. Once you commit to no more excuses, you start to see opportunities where before you saw barriers. You start to find solutions instead of problems. You begin to build momentum that propels you upward. Stopping excuses also means shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Excuses come from a place of limitation, a belief that there isn't enough time, energy, or resources to achieve your goals. When you stop making excuses, you start to see the resources you do have. You recognize your own potential, your creativity, and your determination. You realize that success isn't about perfect conditions. It's about making the best of the conditions you're given. You start to act like a winner even before the win arrives because you refuse to let excuses hold you back. Another critical part of your rise is consistency. Excuses often creep in when progress feels slow or hard. They try to convince you that skipping one day, one task, or one opportunity won't matter. But your rise depends on the small daily actions that add up over time. When you stop making excuses, you commit to showing up every day, doing the work, pushing through resistance, and staying focused on your goals. That consistency builds habits, and habits build momentum. Momentum turns into progress, and progress fuels confidence, which feeds the fire of your rise. The power of stopping excuses also lies in reclaiming your time and energy. Excuses waste both. When you're busy justifying why you can't do something, you're draining mental energy that could be spent on action. You're delaying your own success by diverting attention away from what actually matters. When you cut out excuses, you clear your mind and your schedule to focus fully on your priorities. Suddenly, you find time where you thought there was none, and you discover energy you didn't know you had. That's because your mind is no longer divided between excuses and effort. It's fully committed to the climb. Your rise begins the moment you stop making excuses, because that's when you start believing in your own power. Belief is the foundation of all achievement. Without belief, your actions will be half-hearted and your goals will stay out of reach. But once you decide to quit the excuse game, your belief grows. You start telling yourself, I can, I will, I am capable. This internal dialogue transforms your mindset and your reality. You begin to see yourself as someone who gets things done, who overcomes obstacles, and who refuses to accept anything less than success. It's important to recognize that stopping excuses doesn't mean you won't face challenges or setbacks. Life will continue to test you. But without excuses, every challenge becomes a chance to prove your strength, resilience, and creativity. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. You become solution-oriented, proactive, and unstoppable. Your rise isn't defined by the absence of obstacles, but by your response